Welcome to another prophecy update. My name is Marco, pastor of Community Church of Devore in Southern California. It is Thursday night here in California, Friday morning in the Middle East, Friday morning in Europe, and Israel has launched a war against Islamic Republic of Iran. We have lots happening today as we speak, lots of news, lots of things changing, more developing, lots of updates coming up. And this week has been a bit strange. It was a tremendous amount of speculation on whether or not Israel would strike Iran, whether the strike will become imminent. And I originally thought about making a video this week, thinking that at some point it was going to happen, but it was going to have to be after the round of talks with the Iranians this weekend. On Monday, that would have been Tuesday, in Brisbane, Australia, I was zoomed in to do a Bible study with believers at the Australia conference. And I spoke about how Iran, to keep an eye on Iran, because I thought something was going to happen this week. The mullahs have been talking about the Mahdi and the nuclear proliferation and some of the missiles that they're working on and enrichment. And I thought something could happen, but I wasn't sure. But today, early morning California time, when I woke up, Senator Tom Cotton from the U.S. and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth were speaking and confirming that Iran was actively working toward a nuclear weapon. And even Steve Witkoff, who warned about Iran and the ability to cause massive casualties in a briefing that he gave the U.S. Senate. And so I thought this was more confirmation that something may happen this week. They spoke about the amount of nuclear weapons they can have. And Witkoff, which is a special envoy, sort of a negotiator for the U.S. in the Middle East, told senators that a strike by Israel was on the table if no agreement was reached. And so he brought up the ballistic missiles, the cruise missiles, the enrichment, and he was concerned about Israel's air defense. So in addition to all this, the striking back against Israel was a concern that the Iranians have been repeatedly warning the U.S. In their bases in the Middle East if they get involved. So I thought that changed everything, that now they are finally, the U.S. Administration, the Trump administration is finally realizing that there's a threat and they're going to give Israel the green light. Then I read that Argentinian President Javier Milei was thinking about moving the embassy, and actually he will move it now to Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. And he said Argentina will support Israel with all its force. So a lot of these things were lining up, and I knew something was going to happen with multiple reports, and CBS News were talking about it, how the U.S. was anticipating some kind of retaliation on certain American sites, and the State Department was ordering some non-emergency government officials to exit Iraq due to the heightened regional tension, and the State Department was also telling employees and their family members about restricted areas and not to travel outside the greater Tel Aviv area in Jerusalem and Beersheba until further notice. And even Trump was asked if the Israeli attacks today, was it going to be imminent? He says, well, I don't know if it's imminent, but it looks like something's going to happen. Something very well could happen. And then the IAEA, which is the International Atomic Energy Agency, gave Iran a non-compliance today with this nuclear obligation. So following the vote, it was basically announced that they would be, Iran was previously reaching unrevealed enrichment sites. Unrevealed enrichment sites, and it was in a secure location, said the Iranians. So the Atomic Energy Agency was very concerned, and the Iranians were testing new missile sites, and they were equipped with a 2-ton warhead, and all these things were happening. And soon enough, hours later, 3 a.m. Israeli time, 3:30 a.m. Tehran time in Iran, the IDF started attacking dozens of Iranian nuclear sites. That would have been early Friday morning for them. And the military attack upon Iran began. Multiple reports. Several countries were talking about that there were hundreds of fighter jets in the air and different parts of Iraq heading into Iran, and the IDF really took it to the Iranian sites. It really took it to the facilities and the nuclear facilities, and now the war had begun. Netanyahu spoke about it. The Rising Lion, Operation Rising Lion had launched, and he was talking about it being decisive in Israel's history, attacking the nuclear program of Iran, the ballistic missiles. They will continue to attack until the threat is removed. Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz was a target, and they're going to remove the ballistic missiles.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were the victims of a Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazi regime. Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear Holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb. We also struck at the heart of Iran's ballistic missile program. Last year, Iran fired 300 ballistic missiles at Israel. Each of these missiles carries a ton of explosives and threatens the lives of hundreds of people. Soon, those missiles could carry a nuclear payload, threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions. Never again is now. Today, Israel has shown that we have learned the lessons of history. When enemies vow to destroy you, believe them. When enemies build weapons of mass death, stop them. As the Bible teaches us, when someone comes to kill you, rise and act first. This is exactly what Israel has done today. We have risen like lions to defend ourselves.
So Iran's outlets, news outlets claim that the war against Israel has begun, and it will be inevitable at some point. They'll retaliate. We'll talk about that at the end. And so these preemptive strikes against Iranian targets, multiple precision engagement. I mean, it goes on and on. There's so much information to talk about. I don't want to make this video too long, but the air raid sirens currently going off in Iran and Israel. Iran has suspended flights at Tehran airport. Several targets have been hit, massive explosions all through Tehran. Netanyahu has been brought into, the motorcade has entered the Mossad command bunker. The initial explosions in Natanz, and this is the nuclear facility in Iran, and in Fordo. These are the main ones that they have. And even senior officials for the IDF says that Israel is preparing multiple days of combat, not just one day, multiple days. And there's been 1 wave, 2 waves, 3 waves already of reporting bombings in Tehran, and they're going after the Iranian leadership. We'll talk about that in a moment. But they are holding meetings right now. The Iranian leadership was holding top security meetings, and because Israel has struck the nuclear targets. The first 2 waves of strike, I should say, were against personnel. The third wave was against infrastructure. So Natanz have been hit pretty hard. That underground facility has been damaged. Some people think it doesn't exist anymore. We'll know more as sort of the haze kind of clears up over the next 24 hours. But the Iranian Revolutionary Guard headquarters in Tehran has been hit. In the initial attack, it's that they have struck those buildings, they have struck nuclear sites, and so this is going to continue for a couple of days. And even the Israeli defense minister, Israeli Katz, declared state of emergency in Israel, and so there's sirens going off because they're preparing for a strike from Iran against Israel's retaliation. Netanyahu spoke about they had targeted the Iran's nuclear facilities, but also the scientists and the personnel, the IRGC. They've also struck at the heart of the ballistic program. So top Iranian officials and military officials have been targeted. They went after them, and obviously they were in meetings, high-level security meetings, and the targeted assassinations have taken place. And they hit the scientists, they hit the Iranian top officials, and they have successfully actually assassinated almost the entire general staff in the nuclear scientific rank in Iran. This is unprecedented. Dozens of residences belonging to the Iranian governmental officials have been hit. Fredoyu Abbasi, the former head of the Atomic Energy of Iran, has been assassinated. The chief Revolutionary Guard, Hassan Salami, has been killed. The Iranian forces commander, Muammar Bagheri, has been eliminated. Israeli report says that the head of the Quds force, Ismail Khani, he's been a target for a long time. He's the one that replaced Soleimani, who was killed by Trump. He's been also reportedly eliminated. And so Iran has beginning to report the names of senior officials who have been killed so far. So to recap, it's because there's so much news and so many people that have been eliminated. The Allah Shakmani, which was killed by the Israeli airstrike. He was one of Ayatollah Khomeini's closest advisors and a member of Expediency, the Sermon Council. Soleimani Hussein, we talked about that already. Chief of Staff of the RGC. Sardar Rashid, which is the very senior commander of IRGC. We talk about Ismail Khani. But some of the top scientists, as well as Ali Akbar Abnian, which is the secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. Then you have the nuclear scientist Firdonis Abbas. Then Dr. Trenchari, he was a nuclear scientist. And one of the top ones, Ahmedreza Zolfagadi, has been killed as well. So lots of names. You don't need to remember them all, but just to let you know that the Israelis have gone into a precise strike, just such precisions of going after top nuclear scientists as well as top officials with the IRGC. So these reports indicates that they have gone after the top officials and they've eliminated quite a number of them. In fact, if you take a look at the IRGC has been almost decimated because of the top officials being eliminated, and also the nuclear scientist programs, they have also been eliminated. So the scientists and the officials. So this reports indicate that Israel has been precise not only in the nuclear facilities, ballistic facilities, but also of the generals, top officials, as well as scientists. So what do we expect? Well, the attack have started seemingly at the Victory U.S. base in Baghdad. So Trump says that, look, if Iran is going to attack, the U.S. will defend itself and Israel. So Trump has made it clear that if Iran retaliates, the U.S. will defend itself and Israel. So the FBI is already mobilizing counterterrorism task here in America on high alert because of sleeper cells, the Iranian sleeper cells that we've been talking about for a long time. So, and meanwhile, the State Department it's talking about that this was basically a decision by Israel to do that. Marco Rubio came out and says the U.S. was not involved in the Israeli strikes. Says the U.S. Iran should not target the U.S. or interests or personnel, and Israel took a unilateral action against Iran. Obviously, and the United States knew that. So the first two waves of strike were against personnel. The third wave against infrastructure. Officials have been eliminated, scientists have been eliminated, and so now Israeli officials and Mossad is leading a way to counter the possible terrorism strikes that Iran will have against Israel. So these operations have damaged the Iran strategic missile array and air defense capability. So quite a number of things that are going on. So What do we make of it, right? As the Israeli force has struck not only the radar site, it's called the Subashi radar site, which was a very big, important radar site in the Iran-Iraqi war back in the 80s. It guarded Tehran from intrusions coming from Iraq and as well as the western part of the country. So it appears that the uranium enrichment facility in Natanz no longer exists. The ballistic missile program has been badly damaged, and many other things that we're going to find out over the next 24 hours. But what do we expect Iran to do now? The retaliation. The drone attack against Israel, more than 100 suicide drones have been launched against Israel, maybe 100 to 200, depending on who you talk to. They're coming from Iran, they're coming from Yemen, they're coming through Iraq. Some of them are coming from Jordan, some of them coming from Syria. And not only that, but there's Israeli and British and American fighter jets who are in the process of intercepting those. So quite a bit of stuff coming over the next few hours. The defense establishment has detected cruise missiles as well launched toward Israel. And the plan, of course, of Iran is to, once they have the drones, then they launch cruise missiles, then they launch ballistic missiles soon after that. So in about 3 to 4 hours, it's the expectation we will know more about what is going to happen in Israel after these attacks. After Iran, I should say, launches some kind of retaliation. So we'll know more, possibly in the morning, afternoon, UK time, European time. So meanwhile, Iranians in Tehran have started to hoard gasoline, and many of them are leaving the city by car to travel to family members in the countryside, as Tehran has been badly hit. By the way, the price of oil is spiking early this morning, almost Friday morning here in California, as well as the price of gold. We will see more how the financial markets react to that, but certainly the Houthis have said that they'll try to shut down the Suez Canal, so we'll be seeing more attacks in that area as well. So Iran is also issuing threats against the U.S. The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi talked about how the Zionist regime could have carried out this attack without the U.S. help. So they certainly blaming the U.S. And so the U.S. is Israel's main backer. So they will bear full responsibility. So we have to be watchful of that here in America. The Ayatollah Khomeini actually issued his first statement. He came out after the Israeli attacks and he says there would be some retaliation of some sort at some point. It looks like it's kind of happened probably sooner than later. Now remember, this showdown has been coming for a long time. Remember, Iran had launched an attack against Israel back in April 13th, 2024. This was, of course, a direct attack against Israel and its territory. I think it was about 300 projectiles, 170 drones, 30 cruise missiles, 120 ballistic missiles in retaliation for what Israel struck on April 1st. Now, they also struck Israel back in October of last year, and they launched an attack. I think it was called Operation True Promise, involving about 200 ballistic missiles. And this was retaliation, of course, for the elimination of Ismail Haniyeh and Hezbollah leader Nasrallah. So will there be more? Well, of course. This is probably just the beginning of a long series of attacks and retaliations. And of course, this is a reflection of spiritual battle that is taking place in the heavenlies. The Bible speaks about these things, that the reflection on earth is simply what's going on earth is a reflection of what's going on in the heavenlies. And the book of Daniel speaks about it probably the most clear. The book of Zechariah as well. You can see some of that in the book of Job. The Bible speaks about it in the New Testament. Our battle's not against flesh and blood, but the reality of these entities that affect global powers and governments. The book of Daniel speaks of a conflict. At the end of the book of Daniel, chapter 10, speaks of a conflict between a powerful principality called a demonic being called the Prince of Persia, who it's basically fighting with God's angels to get the message to Daniel, the prophetic message to Daniel. And it's actually Michael who comes to the aid of this angel to help against the Prince of Persia. Then there's another one called the Prince of Greece. So these spiritual forces over Iran, Persia, will be in conflict with Israel in the last days, especially the last 3 chapters of Daniel, chapter 10, 11, and 12, leading up to Michael standing up in chapter 12 at a time of great tribulation for the people of Israel. So we're certainly in the middle of a spiritual battle. Make no mistake about it. Israel's largely and still, for the most part, partially blind, and they cannot see their need for their own Messiah. And we were just there in March, and lots of things are changing. Growing number of Jewish believers witnessing to their own family and their own people, preparing them for Jesus to come. At the same time, they're preparing for the temple. They're preparing for the third temple. They want to unify all these other faiths to come to the temple, 70 nations. And there's also the expansion of Judea and Samaria. So all these things are taking place. So we have to pray for the Jewish people, but we also have to pray for the Persians, the Iranians, right? They're blinded by Islam and the curse of Allah, and many Iranians are coming to faith in Jesus. They are heavily persecuted. In fact, the government, the mullahs, and the religious leaders have spoken about how many Iranians have actually converted to Jesus Christ, and many Muslims have come to Jesus. And it's a growing number of persecuted church, so we must pray for them. And we talked about that. I talked about that and earlier this week in Brisbane, to pray for the believers, a growing number of believers in Persia, Iran. So please pray for them. And we will commit to pray for both nations, both the Jewish nation that needs to recognize their own Messiah, as well as the believers in Iran, as well as those who need to come to faith in Jesus in Iran and other, of course, Arab Muslim nations. So may the Lord God remove the mullahs from Iran and give them courage, and give the believers courage and wisdom to witness for Jesus Christ to their generation, as well as pray for the Jewish people, that their eyes will be open, that their hearts would be not hardened against the Lord. And so lots to pray. There's a spiritual battle. And of course, the first part of our spiritual battle is, of course, prayer, to put on the full armor of God. It's time to really be a witness for Christ as we see developments in the Middle East, not just in the Middle East, but all over the world, but especially the Middle East, which covers many things relating to Bible prophecy. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more. It's early Friday morning here in almost Friday morning California time, and it is already Friday morning in the rest of Europe, the UK, and Israel, as well as Iran. So in about 3 to 4 hours, we'll probably know a little bit more of the retaliation of Iran against Israel. So please keep those things in prayer. Follow our channel for more current event, prophecy updates, biblical teaching, Devore Truth on YouTube, also on Rumble, and also ccodtruth.org, also on Moriel TV, Moriel.tv, and Moriel.org. So follow those there. Watch and pray every single day. God bless you. We'll see you next time.